Alright everybody, welcome back to Advanced RC Adventures. A2RC here. This is a channel that we investigate, explore, build, explain, upgrade, and advance Nitro RCs to another level. From the beginning, on the other video, I showed you the box of the Kyosho Puritan Mantis 2-wheel drive GP version. This is what we got in front of us. This is the car that's going to be kept stock. We're going to do an overview here in this video. It's very possible that most everyone has not seen this or has not seen these for a very long time. They came out in the mid and late 90s. You can tell that this particular car is, I would say, different than what the standard type of cars were around that era. This is 2-wheel drive. Let's take a look at some of the components. I'll do a little spin here and I'll zoom in on a couple different areas and we'll talk about a few things. This car, as I mentioned, is going to be kept stock. Right now it is, we'll call it dirty, but we're going to take apart portions, create sub-assemblies. We're going to take those pieces apart. We're going to take a look at individual components as where it makes sense. I mentioned looking at the box, 2-wheel drive here, servo inside of here. Right now they have Futaba 3003 servos, which have bushings. Got the 12-point small block with a rear exhaust I talked about in the other video that we're going to take a look at that exhaust. There's two different versions. This one in particular is pretty interesting. Kyosho at the time obviously loved blue plastic. We've got spur gear here. We're going to take an in-depth look at the braking system. Clutch bell is interesting also. It is plastic, but there's a surprise inside. Throttle linkage, brake linkage. These fuel tanks did have a silicone O-ring inside and a primer. Your standard 4-cell battery box. Notice they're mounted on the sides of one another. I guess it works, but not really the greatest thing, especially if you get into a crash or a sidewall crash or something of that nature, or just material getting slung onto the chassis from the wheels. Alright, 2-wheel drive, but not only that. Where are the shocks? This particular car in Kyosho, we have a spring system, but no shocks. Here's a spring. What's curious though is that we have a droop screw for height adjustment on front and rear. And we also have a spring tension grub screw or set screw that you can pre-tension the spring. Now there's no dampening. It's just a spring, but that's what makes this interesting and a little curious, is that even though without shocks, you still have adjustability. Body post here, you got 2 M3 screws that go all the way through that bind it together. Still optional body post mounting here on the front bumper. These Kyosho receiver guards made out of silicone. These were an optional part. On-off switch down here. Very low profile airplane style head. These wheels, a lot of people call them pneumatic just because they do not have foams, but that's the case, they truly do not have foams. But these are a standard 26mm wide wheel. Look, that's not great. So I mentioned we're going to talk about if this car has bushings or bearings. These cars are fully bushinged. brass, probably oil light kind of bushings. For bushings themselves, they're all greased, and they do decent. But on the updated or upgraded version that we're going to take a look at after we go through this car completely, have been changed to all ball bearings. See here, we have the spring, same drip screw, same set screw, tension adjustment for the spring down here. Let's take a look at this chassis. We have kind of a 2 or maybe 3 part chassis. This is plastic. You have 2, we'll call like rib sections that sandwich the fuel tank together and provide some additional mounting points for this aluminum chassis. The aluminum chassis itself is nice. It's a 4mm thick chassis, but notice it uses all pan head screws, all Phillips. Phillips I don't really care about, really. On the upgraded version, you'll see we're going to do a modification which is going to help out a lot. So what I've looked up, some of the reason why it's called a Mantis, take a look at the rear body post here. Kind of looks like a praying mantis kind of arm situation. 2 different body post adjustments. Here's a good shot of the blue, very blue, spur gear clutch bell. These have a 42 tooth spur, rotary carb on the engine, air filter will not be reused. That foam is disintegrating at this point. Not too bad of a rear exhaust. It was a simple way for them to put an exhaust on and have it deflect out the back. I think it's more a preference thing. I personally do not care for these rear mounted exhaust, but everyone has their preference. But again, we are going to talk about especially this particular rear muffler. It is unique in the sense that it's not quite a muffler, it's not quite a tuned pipe, but it has a surprise as well. If you guys are familiar with the HPI RS4 Mini and Original Super muffler, those are true mufflers. They have a baffle plate inside. This particular one does not, but we'll go through those when we start disassembling the different components. See, what else can we review? What else can we talk about? There's a lot of plastic, but it appears to be, it's not fiberglass, but I think portions of it, especially this upper deck, is graphite infused, which makes it a little bit higher quality, a little bit more dense, instead of the super flimsy plastics. Pull start. This is one of those cars where it's super basic, but for someone who has been building RS4s for 20 plus years, it's really fun to have something different that came out around the same time, and to see all of the differences that this particular one has to offer. And it's still in my favorite segment, 10 scale touring car Nitro. I don't know if you can see this, and we'll take a look at a better time. Let's get my flashlight out. Can you see down there? You can see one of the transmission shafts, and that little shiny gold brass looking thing, that's definitely a bushing. We'll take up the tires, we'll take a look at things. I'm glad you guys are taking this adventure with me. The updated or upgraded version is complete, but you're not going to see it until after we go through this full car. And it turned out really nice. We have some custom battery packs coming for it from UK, we'll discuss that in length or in full as well, at least provide some options. A lot of what this channel is going to do is give you a glimpse into my mind and how I see things, how they can be updated, upgraded, modified, or kept the same. We're going to go through camber and caster on this particular car. We're going to take a look at the geometry currently, and then what I've done, what I've changed in the upgraded version. Talk about the pros and cons to both. There are new old stock components for these cars, and there are some used. But because this wasn't super popular, especially here in the States, there's not a ton of parts available. I did place an order from a distributor in France for some spares, which are going to be needed whenever you run, regardless if it's for racing or just for bashing or just for fun. It's always good to have some essential spares, control arms, and things of that nature. So I think that's going to do it for this video, and we're going to take it one segment at a time. Maybe what we'll do first, since everybody seems to enjoy looking at engines, we're going to take apart this this Kyosho GX12CR engine, and it has a surprise for you inside, something that I haven't seen in a very long time. Even like great engine rebuilders, repairers like the Bug 404, he and I are buddies, and we share a lot of different information, a lot of fun about RC, including engines. He hasn't seen this little surprise inside for a long time either. So hopefully you'll stick with me, and I appreciate all you guys being here. Feel free to like and subscribe, share with your friends and family, whoever likes Nitro, especially vintage, touring car, 10th scale. Thanks for taking the adventure with me.